Hi, and welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of Kevin MD. Today on the show, we have Sabrina Runbeck. She is a cardiothoracic physician assistant, and she wrote the Kevin MD article, How to Bring Joy and Be Valued While Avoiding Burnout. Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Kevin, and thanks everyone for listening in, no matter where you are, on your computer, driving.
So we'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you just share your story and your journey to where you are today?
Yeah, so appreciate it. So a few years back, I was new as a cardiothoracic surgery PA. And one day I remember waking up 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm already exhausted. Because I was taking call a day. And that time, I remember I was consistently on my 28th call. It wouldn't have been so bad, except that I had a fever, I felt weak, and I was standing in front of a patient with my hands inside his chest. Typically, I'm the one who just nonstop talking. I'm engaging with my surgeons, my scrub tech, everyone. And they noticed even I was quiet. And people start thinking, ooh, Sabrina being quiet is probably not a good thing. So one of the nurses took pity on me and passed cough drop and Dayquil under my mask just to make sure I lasted for the rest of the case. But when I woke up the next morning, I'm covered with sweat, can barely move. So I had to accept, I guess I had to take a sick day. So I spoke to my boss and he said, oh, you're just telling me this now? That's the first time I felt the sense of frustration and super underappreciated. Because my story is not unique in healthcare industry. We all go to work while being sick and just keep going because we know patient comes first. But as we're driving, we're saying yeses to all these things that do not align with who we are, how we want to show up. We're actually robbing our precious time, energy, and sanity.
As a cardiothoracic physician assistant, tell me a little bit about your role and what you do. Then we'll certainly get more into that story in your Kevin MD article.
As a CT surgery PA, we actually have a lot of autonomy. We do see pre-op, post-op. We operate for harvesting now both the veins, take down the radial. Some of us can even open and close the chest, do a lot of minor procedures, typical lines, pertocath, whatnot. And we're someone who in the case the whole time and be really facilitating both from a patient standpoint, resident, and with our surgeons.
So you're telling me that story. You had to call your boss for the sick day and he gave you that response. You said that you felt underappreciated, but tell me what happened next.
Now I'm someone who always the problem solver. So, okay, so I had to take ownership for what I done really to myself. I drove myself to that point of exhaustion and not able to function. So I had to create more systems. I did proposals on how we can expand, how we can change the system, potentially hire more staff member rotating out. But at the same time, I also went back to my own research in neuroscience and public health, which were focused on self-efficacy, self-care, and literacy, and management. And learning from other peak performers like Brenda Bouchard, my professor from Stanford, Sherrod Chapman, and many, many other leaders. How can we create a simple system? Because our life can be chaotic. Just go back down to the basic. So then we can continue to reboot our energy, feeling the happiness dial, tone them up, not going through roller coasters.
So let's talk about that Kevin MD article where I believe you talk about some of those systems, how to bring joy and be valued while avoiding burnout. Can you just briefly share a little bit some of those solutions and proposals that you talked about in that article?
We focus on 3 simple systems. And number 1 is reboot our mental immunity. It's a fitness, it's a muscle as well as your physical muscle. We don't just, identify what doesn't work for the one time. We need to understand what are the sabotagers that we have. There's 9 of them. And number 1 thing for all high performers is judgment. We are so critical of ourselves for what we haven't done. But what we need to know is even when we accomplish 80%, that still need to be rewarded, recognized, and then think about, oh, okay, what was the thing that we didn't do? How can we be more resourceful or block out time better to accomplish the next level? And not thinking, if I can do it, everyone else can do it. If I didn't do it, then it become a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And second thing is redefining our motivation. We all got into medicine for some reason. Remember that joy when we got to the first acceptance letter or even just the first job? However, that doesn't last so long, right? Some people's for last days or semester, whatnot. But can we think about how is the life going forward? What is that ideal lifestyle you want and why you want it? Now we can reverse engineer our path toward that bigger goal and make sure when we create this path is something small, measurable, and doable. Right? People say the SMART goal. But if we're focusing too much on the doing, the next title that we need to gain, the next PhD, now we already drag ourselves down and trapped into only if we get to a certain point, then our satisfaction will be there. It's too late. So we reverse engineer the bigger goals and then create an internal compass to get us there. And the third one really is, how can we be more efficient in our life? It's actually by having more energy. Because without the basic stamina energy, no matter what type of system people can teach, no one's going to do anything. So I focus on how to use just 2 minutes of visualization, breathing, focus on your new intention and one of your 5 senses to redirect your focus, allow all the mental chatter to fly by you, and you're in a better position and more focused, lighter, and more energized to create bigger, better, and things that truly lights you up, not just drag you down.
So you shared this framework here. So let's say I'm a clinician, I'm feeling a little bit burnt out, I'm feeling a little bit underappreciated, and I come to you for advice. Now, what are a few actionable steps that you would recommend that I first take?
Number one thing is, let's create a list of all the skills and you're really good at. If we can live in the zone of what we're really good at and we're very passionate at, then we won't lose the aim and lose the joy. So the first exercise is writing down, even just time for 5 minutes, everything that you're proud of, that you wanted to do, and circle the ones that you currently are able to do, and start the one that you wish you have done more. So now we can start bringing in novelty into your life. We're matching your interest and your skills. Everything else are just distractions. We can delegate, automate, and or eliminate altogether. So that's really the first step.
When we talk about solutions to clinician burnout, some of it is within the clinician, him herself or herself, but a lot of it is within the system itself. Because let's say you do all these steps, but sometimes if the hospital's understaffed or they're making you see more patients or they're making you stay later, these are things that you can't control. Now, how much of the solution's burnout is within the clinician and how much is the solution outside the clinician and within the system?
It's a total perspective change. We can't change what we can't change. However, we can be resourceful on changing our attitude toward this thing. Some patient, they happen to be showing up late. And if you feel the obligation is urgent, you need to see that patient. And it's based out of your obligation. And at the same time, you can also make sure, tell the patient, you set up boundaries, they have to make appointment. Right? We also understand there's a different level of urgency to it. If we consistently just allow people to add things onto our plate and there's no boundary, that's why we feel trapped. At the same time, we can see, okay, if I do have to add on extra on my plate, how can I turn that into an opportunity, onto a gift? And so I can focus on that gift going forward and actually speak up about it. Most of the time we don't say anything. We just go with the flow, quote unquote. And then where our pleaser tendency are giving so much of other people or avoidance tendency of not stir the pot, then we feel that void.
We're talking to Sabrina Runbeck. She's a cardiothoracic physician assistant, and she wrote the Kevin MD article, How to Bring Joy and Be Valued While Avoiding Burnout. Sabrina, let's go back to your story where you felt underappreciated. What are the steps that you did to change yourself? What are some of the steps that you did going forward to help you deal with these feelings that you had?
One of the key component is I start affirming who I am. I think that's what was lost. Is that aim of what do I even want? Is this picture what I can have for the next 5, 10, 20 years? And if I'm not willing to get stuck, then I have to take courage. So every day, one of the simple exercise I even ask other people is that I'm going to just write down one thing I like about myself. And I truly believe that. I program into my phone as a morning alarm for tomorrow. And you know how there's a little short sentence you can write? Mm-hmm. That's what I read first time I wake up. So you already boost yourself in a good note instead of what most people do is think about all the stuff they have to do on their to-do list. So if you put yourself in a stressful mode, of course you don't even want to get out of bed because it's just another same thing yet another day. But once I read that message, and then I stretch, I trying to make my body feel better, go to the bathroom, and now what? I'm going to say that sentence out loud. I truly believe in that sentence. It's not the same as just writing gratitudes. If we're writing gratitude messages and we do it as a chore, we don't believe in the words that we're writing, it won't help us. So from a cognitive psychology standpoint, we need to say it out loud, see it, and affirm and believe in that message.
And what kind of resources can you recommend to clinicians who may be feeling a little bit burnt out?
There are many, many different podcast reviews out there. And I would say, find out one type of meditation that you like. You can start trying it. And people can also grab my 2-minute instant energy reboot exercise. Go to sabrinarunback.com/energy. When you allow yourself just to have 2 minutes, little bit of time of a mental vacation, you can see how much more productive and focused you can be. So you can get to the things that truly lights you up and not just your obligations.
Okay, my final question. What is your take-home message that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
I want everyone to realize you have to say no to almost everything. Then you can say, heck, yes, to the only things that truly matter.
All right, well said. Sabrina, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much.